23 years ago, I thought that Lilo and Stitch sucked.
And he was very wrong, right?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm right or not. There's a whole conversation coming up about
it. Well, we'll talk about it right now.
Okay.
DadToons reviews, talking something new. DadToons reviews, I'ma mention peer review. DadToons reviews, we're talking about it all. You'll be being busy, Disney television, big and small.
I'm Braden.
And I'm Matt, and we're here to talk about Lilo and Stitch 2002. 23 years ago.
We have to differentiate which Lilo and Stitch we're talking about now, because there's two.
Yes,
there's going to be two.
Yes, we're in anticipation of the live action, quote unquote, coming out in a couple weeks here.
Yeah, and I saw the trailers. It looks disturbing, but we'll talk about that later. That's another bridge to cross.
So the summary of Lilo and Stitch 2002 is...
Let me summarize it. I can summarize it off the top of my head.
All right.
So Lilo and Stitch, it's about Experiment 626 is a space experiment. He is a monster creature. He crash lands in Hawaii. He befriends a little girl from a broken family, and her sister who is also her parental figure, and then they have to save. Or wait, then what happens? Oh, they're trying to protect Stitch from staying as part of their family, basically, because other aliens are trying to return Stitch to space because he's a menace.
Yeah, that's a perfect summary.
Is that a perfect summary?
Yeah.
That's what the movie's about.
It is, yeah. We learn all about the importance of Ohana.
That's right. Ohana means family.
So... let's talk about 23 years ago when you were just a young lad.
That's right.
And what was your initial reaction? I guess the first time that you had seen Lilo and Stitch or noticed anything about it?
So in context, like, I was a big nerd and I was into Disney movies. You know, I liked them in the pretentious way. I was like, these are works of art, you know? So when this trailer with Lilo and Stitch trailer, if you remember, there was a series of trailers that came out to promote Lilo and Stitch where Stitch would invade other movies.
Yes.
And there's one in particular where Stitch is like climbing on a chandelier in Beauty and the Beast, right? The chandelier crashes to the ground and disrupts Belle and the Beast's excellent dancing scene or something, remember? And Belle says, "Get your own movie."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And at the time I sided with Belle because I'm like, who's this blue asshole? Like, Beauty and the Beast was nominated for an Oscar, dude. It like elevated the art form. Who are you? Why am I supposed to take you seriously? And like, honestly, it put a bad taste in my mouth, and I didn't watch the movie. I didn't see Lilo and Stitch until about 5 years ago. I thought it was annoying. Like, it looks
that blows
irritating.
my mind.
Yeah.
It blows my mind primarily because, okay, at the same time, I witnessed these trailers and I thought, wow, that's cool. That's different. I love this. And I love that this is like an off-the-wall character that Disney wouldn't usually give you.
For sure.
I love that he's kind of crapping on the other Disney movies, and just creating chaos. It's a perfect introduction to Stitch when we finally meet him.
That's true. Once I see the movie, it makes sense. Those trailers from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, make sense. But I found them pandering because I was like, oh yeah, you want me like, oh, I get it. It's the boys' Disney movie because he's blue and he's interrupting Belle. Like, oh, like I'm gonna fall for that. Like I'm some simpleton. Oh, here, let me chew popcorn while I watch this garbage. You know?
Yeah, of course you couldn't.
Thought about it.
You couldn't let me have my special princess movie. We need our own boys movie, right? Huh, Disney? That's how it is.
Exactly.
The interesting thing. Okay, so let's talk about the people who made Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
One of the co-directors and the creator of Stitch, guess what he worked on?
Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. He was
Okay.
He was a storyboard artist on Beauty and the Beast. He was a storyboard artist for The Lion King, which they also made a trailer featuring Stitch being raised up like Simba.
I remember that one too.
That was one of the best ones because they start showing it and you're thinking, okay, they're bringing The Lion King back in theaters because you're seeing all the animals bowing and everything, and they're going, it's the circle, and then it goes boom, and it's Stitch, and he's like, wow, and all the animals freak out. They're like, what in the world is this? And it was just such a great juxtaposition, I think, putting Stitch in these scenes. And you also had like the Little Mermaid and things like that. So I remember
the Little Mermaid one too. To me, those were all blasphemy. I'm like, The Lion King is a work of art. Like, that's not cool to like treat it that way. That was how I saw it at the time.
Yeah, so Chris Sanders, and I learned a lot of things about Chris Sanders from, there's a documentary that is, I found it unlisted on YouTube, but it's called The Story Room or something like that. And it's all about the behind the scenes of them making Lilo and Stitch. It's very, very much in the same vein as Not Just a Goof, where they're showing behind the scenes of a Goofy movie, because the animators are walking around with camcorders yet again.
That's awesome.
They're showing them working through the story. It shows them like talking through elements that didn't end up being in the movie. All kinds of crazy nuggets I have from that we'll get to in a little bit. But let's talk about Chris Sanders real quick. Chris Sanders, like I said, he created Stitch. He actually concepted an early version of Stitch that became this movie in 1985. He was trying to create a children's storybook. Yeah, he was writing a children's storybook. He went to Cal Arts. His first job after Cal Arts was as a character designer on Muppet Babies, the original Muppet Babies, which is...
That somehow makes perfect sense, actually.
It actually does, because the design of Stitch very much looks kind of like a Muppet. In a way.
Yeah, for sure. Was he involved at all in the TV series?
In the Stitch TV series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he does the voice of Stitch in all American media. Outside of America, there now are 2 other TV shows that are animes, and he doesn't do the voice for those.
Okay.
But it's very interesting. He worked on Muppet Babies. His first job at Disney, he was a visual developer for Rescuers Down Under, which is another one of my favorites from being a kid watching this on VHS. Then transitioned to storyboarding. He was on Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Mulan. And when they started developing this movie, the president of Disney at the time, Thomas Schumacher, he wanted Chris Sanders to make the Dumbo of our generation. So that was the initial goal here, creating Lilo and Stitch.
So that was in the 80s?
This actually was in the 90s. So when he concepted the early version of Stitch, he was trying to write a children's book in 1985. He ended up not making the storybook because he couldn't figure out how to condense the story he wanted to tell into a kid's storybook. So it just kind of sat on the shelf.
That's because I wondered, like, where did this idea come from? Because it's unlike any other Disney movie by a lot. Like, is there any other science fiction Disney movie? Is this the only? Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet.
Atlantis counts.
Yes.
and this. So
And
Disney doesn't do
Atlantis,
sci-fi a lot.
Atlantis has ties to this too, because like I said, Chris Sanders was the co-director and well, he was the creator, but he was the co-writer for this movie too, along with Dean DeBlois, who I think he was working on Atlantis at the time and got switched over to Lilo and Stitch.
They have a similar kind of stylistic look to them, Atlantis and Lilo and Stitch. I mean, Lilo and Stitch looks totally unique. It has like a painted kind of style.
Yes.
The character designs are completely different than anything you see in other Disney movies, mostly.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the painterly style, the cool thing is this is one of the last Disney movies that actually used watercolor paintings. And at the time when they were making this movie, that was seen as an outdated thing.
Like
because
cheap, right? It's like
no, not cheap, actually like difficult, because there's all sorts of things that come along with creating these watercolor paintings. Basically, you're layering colors, and it just works differently than acrylic painting. And when you're layering it, when you're actually like capturing the animation cell on top of cell, they used to run into problems where the watercolors would separate from the film cell and things like that. So it was just something that they had transitioned out of. But one of the requirements for this movie was that they had to they were asked to make it look like it was drawn. Because at the time, let's talk about 2002, most of the animation was transitioning to, Pixar and DreamWorks style 3D.
So this movie was computer animated?
No, it was drawn. The character animation was drawn. And there are certain scenes that were composited in 3D. For example, like when you have the spaceships that are flying through the air, those are all 3D scenes.
There's some real obvious, like 2002 CGI in here.
Right. But every background in the movie was an actual watercolor painting.
Wow. That's part of what makes it stand out, because it does have, and it kind of, you were saying that it was originally conceived as a children's storybook, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It kind of looks, that watercolor kind of makes it look like a storybook.
Yeah, when Chris Sanders was like giving Schumacher the actual like pitch that ended up getting approved, he made a 29-page book that was all watercolor paintings. Wow. And Schumacher just said, I'm going to prove it, but you have to make it look like you drew it.
And that visual style, that now, like after I watched it, I think is really cool, makes it stand out. At the time, I was like, what? This isn't a Disney movie. I was like, they're cheapening Disney movies. This was my impression when I was 13 years old. They're cheapening Disney movies. This looks like a Cartoon Network cartoon. This is what I thought. I was wrong. but this is what I thought back then. I was like, they're cheapening. Disney is a higher thing. Disney is high art. It's not DreamWorks. It's not Ants.
Okay, so we talked about how you experienced Lilo and Stitch back when you were a kid, or lack thereof.
Experience, yeah.
Right. Or lack thereof. I, on the other hand, watched those teasers, loved them. I think I got what they were going for, because when I went to go see it in the theater, I was very much in anticipation of this movie. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I think I had to wait until it went to the dollar theater, but I definitely went to see it in the dollar theater and loved it. And it gave me everything I wanted, Now, that said, they didn't pay off like this kind of meta humor that they had in the teasers, right? He's not actually like a meta character that's popping into different Disney movies.
Yeah, and on some level, I think I did think that's what it was going to be.
Yeah,
Like when
it
I
was
was a
almost hard to
kid.
know because like
Yeah.
those teasers make it feel like it's Deadpool or something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, I loved it. I just love the world building for one thing. The fact that there is a whole, intergalactic council, there's robots, there's aliens, there's, mad scientists, there's prisons in
Yes.
space. They're reading newspapers in space, which is really interesting.
That is interesting.
There's newspapers in space. That's cool.
Just watching it this week was the first time that I noticed that the aliens look like sea creatures.
Yes.
Like that one alien is like a little manta ray. I never figured it out before.
Are you talking about Gantu?
Yeah.
The big, Captain Gantu. Yeah, I think they like actually make fun of it. I don't know if they made fun of it in this movie, but they do make fun of it either in the series or in like the spin-off movies, which I have watched. I've watched every piece of Lilo and Stitch content except for the animes, which I have not seen at all.
I'll bet those are good though. Like I'll bet the Lilo and Stitch anime is probably good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Stitch feels very much like a Japanese character. He feels like an anime character. He feels like he originated in anime.
Okay, well, he's kind of like a kaiju. He's a monster.
Yeah.
But he's small.
Right. So it doesn't surprise me that, they've embraced him in Japan, and now in China, there's also a series in China. So like other nuggets of my childhood here, Lilo and Stitch was the first Disney movie I ever had on DVD. I had saved up money to buy my family our first DVD player by mowing my neighbor's lawn.
Dang.
Yeah, and I bought a DVD player. That one lasted a few years. It was an Apex DVD player.
You should
You
have
remember
just
Apex?
bought a PlayStation 2. That was the life hack back then.
What year did PlayStation 2 come out?
99, 2000, somewhere in that
Okay.
neighborhood.
I don't think I was able to afford a PlayStation 2. I think that was
Yeah.
probably $200. I think I saved like $50 and
wow.
bought a cheap Apex DVD player.
Sure, yeah. So I also bought my family's first DVD player.
Really?
And I did, yes. I bought it for us for Christmas.
Yeah.
I sold Nintendo 64 games to buy it because I
Wow.
knew I was getting a PlayStation 2 for Christmas.
You knew you were getting a PlayStation 2, but you still bought a DVD player?
Because I wanted the DVD player for myself.
Okay. All right.
The DVD functionality of the PS2, I didn't want to have to share the DVD player of my PS2 with everyone.
I see. So if you wanted to play your PS2, you didn't want your dad being like, "Oh, I want to watch Roots
Exactly.
on DVD."
Exactly. I wanted to be able to play The Simpsons Hit and Run whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the first DVD that I bought my family was Bubble Boy.
Nice. That's great. So the first Disney movie
Yeah.
that I had on DVD was Lilo and Stitch because I specifically asked for it for Christmas. And this was the one year that my grandma asked my mom what we actually wanted. She was like, I want to get each of the grandchildren like one thing that they want. And I was like, Lilo and Stitch on DVD. She bought me the VHS.
Oh my God.
And I was very set on it being a DVD, specifically because also I bought that DVD player.
Yeah.
And so the VHS sat on her coffee table for like a month before she took it back and got me the DVD. And I was very happy because, I did watch through all those special features and everything. Wow. I was very, very happy. And if, I wouldn't have had all those special features if I had the VHS.
I'm kind of surprised that Lilo and Stitch was released on VHS. Like,
It was probably one of the last few.
yeah.
I think VHS survived probably like 2005 or something. I feel like.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't stop selling DVDs when they came out with Blu-rays either. They're still selling DVDs.
And speaking of Blu-rays, Stitch is blue.
He is blue. Yes, he is blue. Do you have thoughts on that?
The Stitch is blue. The ocean is blue.
Oh yeah. Big connection.
One thing I love about Lilo and Stitch is the sister. This is
Nani. Yeah.
Not Nani. This is like maybe the most realistic Disney character. I love that. You can feel like she's really trying her best. You know, like when she's playful with Lilo, and then when she's like disciplining Lilo, and it's like you can really put yourself in the position of like a young person being stuck raising your precocious sister who like if you weren't their guardian you would probably be like, my sister's really cool and fun, but you you have to be their guardian. So
yeah, especially when Nani is just barely trying, like she's just trying to keep the house and keep Lilo safe, and Lilo's pretty much doing anything she can to get in trouble. And it's very close to her getting taken away by protective services.
Lilo is great too. Lilo is like a silly, quirky little girl, but not, in my opinion, not unrealistic. Like, you can totally imagine people like that. Like
I've met
Lilo.
people like that for sure. Yeah. I knew people like that growing up.
Yeah, and so it's weird that it's one of the most realistic Disney movies, but it also has aliens.
Yeah, it's super cool. In the documentary that I mentioned, they talk about how they would show the scene where Lilo and Nani are arguing, and the test audiences kept thinking that Nani was the mom, and they're like, I don't like it when Lilo argues with her mom and stuff like that. And so they added in some little bits that really made the scene work even better. The two have argued and they want to apologize to each other, but they don't really know a good way of apologizing. Anyways, Lilo ends up saying, oh, I like you better as a sister than a mom. And that made it kind of more understandable to the audience, and they didn't mind the arguing quite as much anymore because they realized that it was actually realistic, these sisters arguing.
Yes, that's so cool. And that scene is great. Like that scene where Lilo's in bed and Nani comes in to, just like you said, they're apologizing to each other but without saying that. It's a really good emotional scene that I thought was a bunch of shit when I was 15. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's interesting too that you bring up Lilo and how kind of weird she is but realistic. When they were actually looking for the voice of Lilo, they said they needed a girl that kind of exemplified those weird qualities, and Chris Sanders described Debbie Chase, who was cast as Lilo, as having a haunting quality. In this documentary, he says a haunting quality. He basically said that because she would act out the scene and then kind of retreat into like just her shell. And
I see. That's interesting.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about him saying that it was a haunting quality was that she's also the girl. She's the little girl from The Ring.
Whoa.
Yeah. That was actually released the same year. So I don't know. They probably recorded her lines before she even recorded or was cast in The Ring, I assume.
Lilo and Stitch and The Ring came out in the same year?
Yeah, 2002, yep.
See, I'm having a lot of like time adjustment issues.
Yeah, isn't it weird?
During this conversation. Because like the idea that you got Lilo and Stitch on VHS is kind of weird to me. Although, of course, that makes sense. But like trying to visualize the VHS copy of Lilo and Stitch is causing me distress.
So we've been talking about a lot of fun facts already, but I've got a lot more fun facts for you right now.
All right, it's going to get even more fun. Those were the
facts.
Fun.
Facts.
Those were the like enjoyable facts before. Now these ones are like actually fun.
Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so Sanders' initial idea, I mentioned, was going to be in a children's storybook, but his actual concept that he was trying to pitch before it was approved was Stitch was an alien, crashed into the woods, and basically he was going to be trying to fit in with woodland creatures who didn't understand him and didn't want anything to do with him.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if you watched the movie, but that turned into The Wild Robot.
Oh, I did not watch The Wild Robot.
Yeah, that was
I've heard good things about it. The trailer looks really good.
Yeah, so that was also released last year. It was one of the movies that was competing against Flow for Best Animated Feature. Chris Sanders directed that. I assume he also co-wrote it.
Wow.
But yeah, it's not the same exact thing, but that premise, definitely you can see how it turned into that. Also, there's a scene where Stitch is reading The Ugly Duckling. Mm-hmm. and Lilo actually tells Stitch the story initially about the ugly duckling and how he doesn't feel like he belongs and everything. And that's, you're connecting that with Stitch feeling like he doesn't belong. Well, there's a big connection there with the Wild Robot, because the robot in that movie kind of adopts an ugly duckling and is the mom of that ugly duckling. So there's definitely a lot of connections there.
Dang, that's cool. So what you call that kind of story, it's a fish out of water story, right?
Sure. And
it's interesting that Stitch is the fish out of water, right? But he's in water.
Well, he's also a fish that can't be in water because that's part of the whole thing. His molecular density is too great. So that's why it's cool that he landed in Hawaii, where he's kind of trapped, surrounded by water.
I loved that part of it, that like he has the urge to destroy cities, but there's no cities on the island that he's on, and he can't get to them because he's on an island.
Another fun fact. Okay, so when they decided on Hawaii, they were looking at other small cities like that. They were so they were trying to look for like a small town that wouldn't match the big city vibe. So they were looking at Kansas and things, and Chris Sanders just so happened to have vacationed in Hawaii. And somehow that just got in his head. He's like, oh, we could set it in Hawaii. Then you have like really pretty visuals. And so that just got kind of plugged in. And he actually named Lilo and Nani, another fun fact here, by looking at a map of Hawaii and looking at the street names. He just took it from the street names.
Wow.
Both of those names.
So if you take Lilo and Stitch and you turn Stitch into a robot and you transport them into a small town, now it's the Iron Giant.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Very similar kind of movies, and they're all brilliant, made by like auteur animation filmmakers too.
Yeah. Here's another fun fact. Stitch originally was the leader of a criminal gang, and Jumbo was his partner.
Wow.
So it wasn't this creator and experiment relationship, which I think ended up working really well. I loved that they send the creator after his creation as part of his penance. Too. Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is Stitch being like the leader of a gang of alien criminals, that kind of lasted into a couple different screenings. It went pretty far. Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of makes me think of the TV series, because the TV series is all of his cousins, and like,
you're right.
It's like every episode they're finding a different. I've been watching the TV series a lot because my son is into it.
Yeah, the TV series, I like that they're like, okay, what about all the other 600 experiments? Let's go find those.
Yeah.
I do wish it had the same production value, but that would be pretty difficult to achieve. I mean, that'd be a lot of money.
Yes, but still the TV series looks pretty good. If compared to the other Disney animated series, is like the Timon and Pumbaa animated series looks like garbage.
Yeah. And they try their best to replicate that kind of watercolor style. They don't do, it doesn't look perfect. You don't have the sort of rich colors that you get with the actual watercolors, but you're right. They do a decent job of it. And they also have 3 other movies. I don't know if you've watched any of those.
I've watched the real one, the one that there's one that is like really a sequel, right? And then there's one that is like the TV series movie. Yeah,
so they have one that is specifically called Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch, but the sequel that came after Lilo and Stitch was a direct to DVD movie called Stitch the Movie.
Yes,
and this was actually the kickoff point, the pilot of the TV show. So that is where the TV show starts. And then the TV show goes, I think Lilo and Stitch 2 might happen actually in between Lilo and Stitch 1 and Stitch the Movie. I can't remember exactly, but I think it does. And then there's the 4th movie is set. It's basically the end of the TV series. It is the conclusion. It's called Leroy and Stitch, and it's like
I've heard of that.
I think it's experiment 627. So it's like one more experiment that is Stitch, but more evil.
I see.
Something like that.
I'll have to watch that.
All right, I have one more really big fun fact for you right here.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
So the big chase scene at the end where Gantu is trying to catch Stitch, but he catches Lilo and Stitch, and then Stitch gets out of the pod and he hijacks another ship or something, or they use Jumba's ship that they came to on Earth. Originally, it was going to be a hijacked 747 plane. And
it was like in the city too, right? It was like
so
among
they had
skyscrapers.
Yeah, I think I guess it was in Honolulu or something. Like they had it flying through Honolulu.
I've seen shots of it. I've seen clips of this.
Yeah. In the documentary, they specifically talk about how they had that scene animated early on in the process because they knew it was going to be such an expensive scene. They had the ships were 3D and all this, so like they wanted to make sure that they had that locked before they hit their budget, so that they didn't have people coming to them being like, okay, we got to cut that scene because it's too expensive.
Gotcha.
So that was animated way early on, like this whole scene with the 747 plane. And obviously 9/11 happened while they were producing the movie. Jeez. And it's so funny because they're talking about it in the movie, in this documentary. And they're like, that was like my third thought after like the Twin Towers went down was, oh crap, we got to change Lilo and Stitch. But everybody on the production knew immediately that they had to change it.
Yeah.
So they ended up changing it to the alien ship that Jumba and Pleakley came on, and they got it done. They also show they show the guy. They show the 3D modeler actually like modifying. He's basically going in to the model of the 747 and just tweaking different things and molding it differently to make Jumba's ship. So they actually didn't have a ship designed for Jumba until they had to change that whole scene.
Oh, wow. I know another thing that was changed. I know when Lilo and Stitch went to Disney Plus, they edited the scene where Lilo climbs into a dryer.
Yeah.
because you don't want children climbing into dryers.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I get
arguably,
it.
yeah, arguably that's the point. She's doing things she's not supposed to be doing. She's in unsafe situations. They also
true.
show, she's like, the stove is on. There's like burning food everywhere. Like the kitchen is a
true.
mess. She's
true.
in all kinds of dangerous situations.
She should be taken away by Mr. Bubbles.
Really, yeah. If he was doing his job, he would have taken her away immediately. I'm gonna give you one more chance. You lost your job, but I'm gonna give you another chance.
You almost burned the house down, but I'm just gonna give you another shot at it.
You left the kid at home, but I think you're a good person.
You're clearly negligent and irresponsible, but whatever. Yeah. So let's transition to Does It Work?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Can we talk about whether or not it works?
Does it work?
Does it work? So something I've noticed about myself is, when I first saw the trailer for this, and really like from when I was like 12 to like when I was 26, anything new, I was like, that sucks. Like, I was like, oh, the new Disney movie, it's not going to be as good as the old ones, like I don't know, that was my mindset for a really long time. Or it was really hard, it took a lot for me to like a new thing. But I'm finding as I get older, as I try and fail to make some things of my own, I think it makes you appreciate everything. And I'm so much more open-minded to art and entertainment now than I ever was. Yeah. Which you'd think it would be the other way around, right? You'd think young people have not open minds. Yeah. But not me. Not me. My mind was closed, and then it's slowly been opening. But all that is to say, when I finally did watch Lilo and Stitch, when I was like 25 or 6 with my now wife, who it's one of her favorite childhood movies, and it's great. It's a great movie. It is much different from all the Disney movies, so that's part of what makes it good. It's doing its own thing, but also it is still kind of in the Disney tradition. That it's got a lot of heart. It's funny, it's for everybody. It's got compare it with Lion King, and it's got all the same stuff. I'd
say it has more things for everybody than the Lion King does. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, okay, let's talk real quick about the score. We didn't talk about that at all. Okay. Just the fact. Okay, so they were creating this movie. Another thing that I got from the documentary, they created this movie using, before they had even signed on anybody for the score, they were using Alan Silvestri music, as they were storyboarding the scenes and things. And they're like, we want Alan Silvestri, who famously, does iconic things like Back to the Future. And the score that he made for Back to the Future, it is iconic. It is something that can get stuck in your head. I'd say that's the same with this movie. And when we're talking about things that are, for everybody, okay, so you have the Alan Silvestri score, which has a very iconic tune to it. I was actually humming it the other day. And I thought for a second, hey, wait, is that Back to the Future? No, that's Lilo and Stitch. Oh, wow. Yeah. And I didn't even connect the dots that Alan Silvestri was the composer until, today when I was looking at it. That's interesting. Both sci-fi movies. Yeah, and not only Alan Silvestri music, you also have, Hawaiian music recorded by a Hawaiian choir of kids, which is perfect for the hula dancing and all that. And they sound great. Yeah, and then you mix it with all this Elvis music and the Elvis covers, and somehow it all meshes perfectly. And Lilo, Lilo loving Elvis and incorporating him into what she's teaching Stitch. Like, it just makes it all work so well.
Yeah, it's weird that Lilo likes Elvis. It's good that Lilo likes
perfect.
Elvis. It makes a little bit of sense because she's from Hawaii and Elvis famously made a movie there. It reminds me, when I was a little kid, when I was like 5 or 6, I loved Elvis. I had an Elvis cassette tape.
Oh, really?
Yes, I listened to Elvis all the time. I had an Elvis cassette tape that I loved, that I played to death.
Did it have
It had
You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog?
Oh, heck yeah, it had that.
Oh, yeah.
It had Hound Dog. It had Heartbreak Hotel. It had I Want to Be Your Teddy Bear.
I don't know that one. But the You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog scene where she's showing Nani, like, as Nani's waking up.
Yeah.
And little kids do this all the time. My 5-year-old does this. He'll just like stand next to the bed, and I like barely open my eyes, and he's like, I want to show you something.
Like immediately.
Yeah. And he's already got like the thing, and he's like trying to show me.
He's been waiting for you to open your eyes.
Yeah, as I'm half asleep. Yeah. And she's just like, she's like, check this out. And he just puts his claw on it, and she opens his mouth, and that acts as an amplifier. It's silly and so good. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, I loved all the stuff with like Nani not like trying to be accepting of Stitch, but like clearly not liking Stitch, like at the beginning.
Right. And Lilo telling her that she can't kick him out because of Ohana, and Ohana means nobody gets left behind. I mean, they tie that all in so well.
Yeah.
I think this movie works so well, and it's to me, it's a classic, and it always will be. There's not a lot of things I can think of in the movie that don't work, honestly. I can say some things like, the alien judicial system is not very thorough. It's not. No. They're just like, okay, bring this experiment in front of us and see if it can impress us. It's like American Idol in space.
Also, there are we see so many aliens, and they're all completely different species.
Yeah, even robots.
Yeah, so like, I guess it's like a federation of the planets, I guess.
Yeah, I think they called it the Galactic Federation is what they called it. Yeah.
Okay. So we see that's just kind of interesting that there's no dominant species that we see. There's not one species we see more of, or one that's in charge.
When Stitch says the bad word, which we have no idea what it actually means, he goes, and they all just gasp, and they're like, and the robot who's sitting at the council he throws up bolts and nuts. It's just so good.
So do you want to give it a rating?
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Boom.
Really?
Done.
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
Okay. So
I just, like I said, I can't think of much that you can do better. I can say that, I can say that you can improve the sequels and you can improve the TV show. I think this is Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois's magnum opus, probably.
Wow. So that's great. I love your enthusiasm. That's good. So good. That's so good. I think this is a pretty good movie. It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Well, that's better than it sucking. So
yes, it doesn't suck. It doesn't suck, but it's not.
We did it. We convinced him. It doesn't suck.
but listen though, it's not The Lion King. The Lion King is better. The Lion King is better.
They're completely different.
Sure.
But like I said,
one's better.
They're different. I like them both. But also, like I said, The Lion King it has a specific audience. I think you either like The Lion King or you don't. But I think it's hard to not like Lilo and Stitch.
That's fair. So I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
I don't
7. Oh man.
I don't have the nostalgia.
Yeah.
But the nostalgia I have is getting upset about the trailers, and it is weird because I do vividly remember all of the Stitch trailers.
Yeah.
And there's no other cartoon that I remember the trailers for so clearly. So that says something.
The teaser trailers even, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I remember them very well. I remember how I felt watching them. And that's unusual.
I think it's so funny that it pissed you off. Cuz it did the complete opposite for me.
I was like, I see what you guys are trying to do.
I'm smarter than this.
Yeah, that was kind of me back then.
Yeah. Well, perfect. So, we have the live action coming out soon that we're definitely going to be talking about.
That's right. So should we, before we go see it, should we talk, what do we think? What do we anticipate?
What do we expect?
What do we expect? Because here's what I'll say. I think it's probably going to be bad, but I will say, from the trailers I've seen, Stitch looks okay. I think the Stitch looks pretty good. The Lilo, it's a real little girl. So,
and it's a real little Hawaiian girl too. So that's an upgrade, I'd say, because
for sure.
Because the actress Devi Chase, she's white.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. They were looking for a certain quality, that haunting quality, right?
Yes.
So, but it is nice to be able to you couldn't have a live action and have a little white girl.
No, definitely. I'm glad that it's a little Hawaiian girl. But
yes,
my problem is with child actors in general. They're very hit or miss.
Yeah, I'm very, very interested. That's one of the things that I think I'll probably like about the movie. I think the little girl I assume she's going to be very cute and silly and fun. And that's what I hope happens. I anticipate not liking much of the live action movie though. But I will say, is there a huge discrepancy between the live action other Disney movies and their originals?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think it probably is going to be like the live action Lion King, where it's pretty much a shot for shot remake with minor tweaks. That's kind of what I anticipate.
Interesting.
I think it's because in the clips I saw of the aliens, the aliens look pretty identical to how they look in the original movie. Pretty close.
That's interesting. Maybe I haven't watched the latest trailer, but from what I saw, and this is what I'm worried about, I think they're going to be spending the majority of their time masquerading as humans in holographic form or something, which I highly dislike.
You're probably right, actually. That would suck. I hope they don't do that, but they always do that. You're probably right. Yeah, they get to Earth and they're like, oh, now we have to use these special wrist communicators to turn human. Vroop, now I'm Ryan Reynolds. It's probably or Chris Pratt.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think Zach Galifianakis is going to be Jumba.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Zach Galifianakis. I think he's great.
Yeah.
But is he Jumba?
I'm intrigued.
Think so. All right. Well, we'll find out.
I feel like because I have less nostalgia for the original, I'll probably like the remake better.
You think you'll like it better than the cartoon?
I'll like it better than you do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely am anticipating not liking it very much, but I am definitely going to give it a chance.
Yes.
And I'm going to be taking the kids to go see it the night of its release. So we will find out.
That's awesome. That's so fun. It's going to be it's a fun thing to do. It's fun to go to the movies. It really is.
It is. It is, and it's fun to talk about, and it's interesting. We had the kids watch Lilo and Stitch a couple days ago, just so they would get refreshed on it and all that. So, it'll be fun to see the reaction to it being live action.
Have your kids watched The Lion King and the live action Lion King? Have they seen those?
Yes. I don't think they love the live action version of The Lion King.
I wouldn't think they would.
But also,
I don't love it.
But also my 2-year-old, we have the Tony box, right? We have the Tony box and the little Tonys.
Yes.
And we'll hand him a couple Tonys in the car so to keep him occupied. And as soon as he puts the lion on the Tony box, it goes, yeah! And he just knocks it right off. Every single time. It doesn't get further than, yeah!
That's great.
Yeah.
We have that same Tony, but Charlie sings along to it. Charlie goes, ah!
That's the way it should be. All right. Well, I think we're going to send you guys off, and please give this video a like and give us a little subscribe, and watch some more DadToons if you feel like it.
Yeah, watch the one where we talk about Porky. Watch Porky's Get Rich Quick Porky. That's a good one.
Does that have anything to do with what we're talking about here?
No, I'm just recommending something they could do after this.
Oh, sure, yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a good one to watch after this.
Yeah.
DadToons, grab a snack and you can sit down. Watch some daddies talking about animation now. Tell you what they like and what they also didn't too. DadToons about to hit you with a great review. Hey!